Recording start. Okay. Hey, lovely listeners. Welcome back to Pleasure Principles. I'm your host, Avik, and today we are diving into the art of mindfulness, something we all talk about, often struggle to embody in our busy and chaotic lives. Mindfulness isn't just about being present. It's a pathway to deeper connection, self-awareness, and even pleasure. So, how can we tap into this transformative practice and use it to unlock our fullest potential? Well, today we have a very special guest to guide us. Joining me is the incredible Amrit Singh Reinsch. So, welcome to the show, Amrit.
Thanks for having me, Avik. Super excited.
Lovely, lovely. So, dear listeners, before we start our conversation today, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Amrit. So, Amrit has spent over 30 years mastering the art of Kundalini Yoga, meditation, and the spiritual coaching. So, he is a high momentum life coach who specializes in helping people create freedom, joy, and alignment while pursuing what they truly love. So his journey is an inspiring as his teachings. He spent 20 years in India delving into the depths of yoga and meditation, and now he's helping people worldwide from his home in Mexico. So Amrit, it's such an honor to have you here today with us, and welcome to the Pleasure Principles.
Thank you so much.
Lovely, lovely. So, mindfulness can sometimes feel like such a buzzword these days. So, from your decades of experience, how would you define mindfulness in the truest form?
I would define mindfulness in the truest form as something we all have already done as human
Okay.
beings. When before we are born, while we're
Hmm.
still in the belly of our mothers,
Yeah.
we have this blissful meditative experience over 9 months. Like
Hmm.
we even do headstands, we do all kinds of yoga postures, all kinds of stuff happens there during this
Yeah.
blissful meditative time. And so the moment we're being born, we already
Hmm.
got month and month and month of mindfulness practice under our belts. And then when
Mm.
you see a baby, especially in the moment when they're nursed from their mothers,
Yeah.
they become extremely mindful. They go very deep into a deep meditative state. And
Hmm.
it's so powerful that it affects the mother and everybody around them. So when people tell me, oh, I don't know how to meditate, no, I can't sit still, I can't, blah, 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 I always remind them of this and saying, you're a natural born meditator.
Yeah.
And yes, you might have forgotten, you might have had a couple hundred cups of coffee too many, you might
Hmm.
have been distracted by the Maya beautiful world
Mm.
of ours where you can make money, spend money, have a bigger house, have a bigger car, work 15, 16, 17 hours a day, sleep only 5, 6 hours, and push,
Mm.
push, push, and burn the candle on both ends. And yeah, when you sit down then and you want to
Mm.
meditate, it is really hard. So it needs to be
Mm.
relearned.
Exactly. Very true. Very truly said. This happens. I mean, like for someone who's just starting out, mindfulness can be overwhelming, as you mentioned, definitely. So, what's a simple yet powerful step, or maybe the first step, to bring mindfulness into our daily lives?
The first step to bring mindfulness in your daily life is to stop. Stop with all the crazy stuff you're doing. Stop with all the busyness. Stop with everything that pulls you away from who you are and
Hmm.
really arrive with yourself. Like one of the reasons why so many people, and we come back to drinking coffee, why so many
Hmm.
people love their morning coffee ritual is
Yeah.
because that's the moment they sit down and everything stops and there's just a
Hmm.
cup of coffee. They don't even look at their phone. They just feel their body. And there's even some people who take this a step
Hmm.
further. That's a moment when they smoke a cigarette, right? And they do nothing else. They
Yeah.
just smoke a cigarette. Horrible, unhealthy habit, but what it gives you
Mm,
in that moment of mindfulness, that moment of calm,
mm,
that space with yourself where you're smoking up the whole area around you. Your kids don't want to come close because it's stinky. And so everybody respects that stinky little
mm.
cloud of yours. That's a moment of mindfulness. And so I'm not
Wow.
saying drink more coffee and smoke more cigarettes, but what I'm saying is find those little pockets that you're already
Mm,
practicing. Some people do it when they go to the bathroom and they stay for 25 minutes in the bathroom.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
their little bubble where they are away from their family, away from their job responsibilities, and no one bugs them. So I would suggest find those little pockets. And no, you don't have to start smoking or start drinking coffee. Go outside in nature, sit on a nice bench, enjoy sitting there. Go to the
Mm,
beach, sit on a lawn chair there and just enjoy being present. Do something that you enjoy and where you
mm,
can just be and where you feel yourself
mm,
coming to the present moment. Because that's all what meditation is about.
yeah.
Meditation is about centering you in the present
Mm,
moment, where your mind doesn't go back to the past. It's like, oh my God, I feel so horrible. I did this wrong. I did that wrong. I said that thing. I was angry there. It's also not about like, oh, what I have to do this afternoon, what I have to go shopping for, what do I have to plan for my work presentation tomorrow, but to come to this present moment of the here and now, to really just say, wow, I'm
mm,
feeling myself. I'm enjoying being alive. I'm enjoying being in this present moment. And if that just lasts for 30 seconds or for a minute in the beginning, you're already being super successful in your journey to becoming a deep professional meditator.
wow. Lovely. Yes. So, in today's world where distractions are everywhere, so how can we train our minds to stay present and focused, especially in the high pressure situations?
Oh, there's two questions in here.
Yeah.
How do we slow down and how
Mm,
can we train ourselves to be more focused, more calm, more centered?
correct.
Right? That's one thing.
Mm,
But then the second part you added to it is how can we
mm.
do this in the high pressure situations?
Yes.
That's the hardest part. That's the
Mm,
most challenging. That's the top of the top. That's what you get after you've been practicing this stuff for a long time. And you're
mm,
able to do it when you're super calm and at home and there's no one and you're sitting with your cup of coffee.
mm,
That's your starting point. When you sit on your yoga mat and you meditate for 5 minutes, that's your starting point. When there's no distractions around, you're alone in the forest and you're like, oh my God, I can be in the present moment, I can be calm.
mm.
When the house is on fire,
Yeah.
most of us will not be able to stay calm. Yes, if you have had a lot of practice,
Mm,
then it is easier to stay calm then. But to be calm the moment someone punches you in the face,
mm,
that's a whole nother level of experience. So I think people mix that up and saying, oh, I've been meditating for 2 weeks. And now my boss told me I have to do this huge project and I flipped out. Why did my meditation not help me to stay calm?
mm.
It's like because you've only been meditating for 2 weeks. Come on, give it some time, build some stamina, build some strength, get to the point where you want to get to. And then you will ultimately be just that little bit more calm.
Very true. And also, I mean, in this, what are the techniques from Kundalini Yoga do you recommend for cultivating uh, calmness, the mental clarity?
Well, there's really only one that applies to all techniques, no matter if
Mm-hmm.
that's martial arts or any other yoga practices or any spiritual disciplines where you use your body. That is breath work. When you start practicing breathing, inhaling, exhaling, extending your breath, holding your breath, breathing longer, breathing shorter, and really practice and get some control around that, you will make so much progress in such a short time that you will be surprised about.
Amazing, amazing, I would say. And uh, so, okay, I mean, mindfulness, it often brings up emotions and thoughts that we have been avoiding. So, what, according to you, people learn? I mean, how can people learn to sit with discomfort instead of running from it?
Oh, this is a great question. How can you learn to sit with discomfort?
Mm,
There's really a question before that. And the
yeah.
question is, are you willing to sit with discomfort?
Mm,
Because most
correct.
people, especially in our busy society, they run away from discomfort and they
Mm,
run towards comfort. They want to have their cozy little bed and their home and their food at certain time and their beer at night and their TV on the wall and money in the bank account and all these things that make you feel more comfortable. Because that's what we have been taught. We have been taught that in order to be successful, you have to be comfortable. You have to travel in business class. You have to drive a big car. You have to have a big house. You have to be comfortable. But that's counterintuitive to what you need to do in order to progress on the spiritual path. And like in any movies, even like you look at Star Wars or whatever,
mm, mm,
the student is never comfortable. The student always gets challenged. And the teacher will
yeah.
always find ways to make that student even more uncomfortable because the teacher understands that the more uncomfortable you get, the further you get out of your comfort zone, the more
Mm,
growth and the more strength development will happen. It's the same when we go to the gym, right? If you go
mm,
to the gym and you tell your coach in the gym, oh yeah, I just want to be comfortable. And the coach goes like, oh, well, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, I don't want to like really push myself. I don't want to sweat. I don't want to do anything that feels hard. And he says, okay, do 50 repetitions of this machine and you do two. And then you're
mm,
like, it doesn't feel comfortable anymore. And he says, yeah, exactly. That's the whole idea. But you
mm,
say, but I'm not comfortable. And so the real question here is, are you willing to allow yourself to be uncomfortable? And the moment you are willing to allow yourself to be uncomfortable,
mhm.
that's when you can look at these challenging emotions, at the shame, at the guilt, at the fear, at the anger, at all these things that make you feel really uncomfortable. And that's when you can process that.
Okay, wow. And so you have coached people across the globe, India, Germany, US, Mexico. So have you noticed any cultural differences in how people approach mindfulness?
Oh, yes. There is
Mm-hmm,
a lot of cultural differences. And it's fun. It's fun to witness
mm-hmm,
because in every culture I have lived in,
mm-hmm,
it allowed me to take a deep dive and examine what's going on inside of me, right? Look, so for example, during my time in India, it was very easy to meditate and talk about spiritual things because culturally, Indians have a real close connection to that and they can relate to that. And they can relate to waking up at 5 in the morning and going to the temple and sitting there for an hour and doing prayers and then go to work afterwards. You tell anyone in the US or in Germany about this, or even here
mm-hmm,
in Mexico, they'll go like, "Oh my God, no, that's impossible. That is not you. How can you do this? This is crazy." And
mm-hmm.
so it really comes down to the differences in approach to mindfulness. Again, we're all mindful meditators from the beginning of our lifetime. But if you have grown up in a culture like India, where it is so common, it is much easier
Mhm.
to get into. Like, for example, here in Mexico, there's a
Yeah.
lot of the Mayan culture, the Aztec culture. There's so much power in prayer. There's a lot of belief in the spirit world. So if here in Mexico you talk to someone about the other side or where the souls go after they die or these kinds of conversations, they're very common, very normal. People can relate to it because again, it's something they have learned and accepted culturally.
Exactly. Very true. And okay, so any can you share a story of someone who transformed their life by integrating mindfulness into I mean, unexpected areas?
Oh, it's interesting because it is a slow process. It is not
Okay.
something when you take the path of
Mm-hmm.
yoga and meditation. Back in the day, they would say to you, oh, this would take you 20 years until you're even ready, right? Until you come to that point where you can start being taught. And this was a very common thing in Asia, in China, in India, in all those cultures where there's a lot of spiritual tradition. And that's kind of the old spirituality. I believe we've come to a new time. It's
Mhm.
2025. People don't have 20 years anymore. People don't want to
Yeah.
sit for 10 hours and meditate and listen to a lecture from some Swamiji who's 80 years old and it's
Mhm.
droning off. He was born in the 50s and has a
Mhm.
complete different relationship to reality than this
Yeah.
new generation of 20 or 30-year-olds who pick things up in seconds, right? So the most powerful
Mhm.
spiritual transformations I've seen
Yeah.
in recent years is not through yoga and meditation. It's more through interaction with psychedelic medicine. And I don't know if that's something you want to go into here in your podcast because it is a little bit of a controversial subject,
Mhm.
but that is really the new spirituality. That is the new future. And the combination between spiritual practice and responsible use of psychedelic medicine, that's what
Mhm.
I believe is the future of us as human beings having spiritual experiences in one day rather than in 25 years.
Lovely. Great. Great. And so like but to say, like for someone who is listening today who feels stuck, overwhelmed, or maybe disconnected, what's the one simple thing they can do right now to start their journey towards mindfulness?
Two things: move
Mhm.
and breathe. If you feel stuck
Mhm.
and you
Yeah.
don't feel good and you say, oh, and I just want to drink alcohol and I just want to sit at home and I want to watch TV and you're all
Mhm.
these things which is going to make you worse, right? It's not
Yeah.
going to make you better to drink 6 bottles of beer and watch 6 hours of Netflix. You're going to feel worse the next day. I would recommend go outside, even if you don't want to, go for a walk, go for an hour, go for 2 hours, and really consciously focus on your breath. Focus on inhaling the beautiful air in the forest if you're blessed to live near a forest. Otherwise, find a park. Find some place where you can move your body and where you can
Mhm.
breathe. And then let me know how you feel after 2 hours of doing that because I don't believe for a second that there's any human
Mhm.
being that can go outside, move their body, focus on their breath,
Yeah.
and come back and be miserable.
Lovely. That's really lovely. Great. So, Amrit, this conversation has been so enlightening and empowering. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your journey, and these incredible insights with us today about mindfulness. So, and I feel like our listeners have so much they can take away and start applying to their lives today. So, for everyone who is tuning in, if you want to learn more about Amrit's work, be sure to check out his coaching programs and follow his incredible journey online. And always remember that mindfulness is a practice. It's not about the perfection, but it's about showing up for yourself with the intention and the compassion. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who could use a little bit of more mindfulness in their life. So, with this, thank you so much.